Thanks for watching Afternoon Live. Do you ever feel like you cannot get out from your credit card debt? Here with advice on how to reduce what you owe, we welcome back financial expert Laura Meier. Thanks for joining us today, Laura.
Great to see you, Hannah.
Credit card debt sounds like a big and scary phrase, but most Americans have some kind of credit card debt that they're carrying around, right?
Yeah, in fact, the latest figures show that as Americans, we have over $1 trillion in credit card debt, if you could believe it. And the average interest rate for that and how fast it grows, it's at 20.53%. So this is definitely a household issue for all of us.
Yeah, and we carry all kinds of debt for lots of different reasons. Why is it so important to get that credit card debt clear as quickly as we can?
So with credit card debt, unlike a lot of other debts, it's so easy to increase with just each new swipe or each click. It's constantly growing, and then the interest rates tend to be so high on credit card debt. So like I said, it's right now the average is 20.53%, which means that principal not only grows of what's on your credit card, but each new month interest accrues. So they call it a snowball effect, where it just is exploding and out of control.
Yeah, and that means the minimum payments each month really aren't going to make much of a dent in your overall debt.
Yeah, and I have a lot of sympathy, of course, for everyone in this situation, because a lot of people, inflation's high, and so what they're doing is they're just making the minimum payment every month just to get by. But unfortunately, if you are just making the minimum payment, you're not really cutting down into the principal of what you owe. And then with each new month interest accruing, you're not really going to see anything shrink. You're actually going to see it continue to grow if you're just doing minimum payments.
And if you're in a situation where you have multiple cards that you want to pay off, how do you prioritize which one to focus on first?
So there's different thoughts on that, but we typically say start with the one that has the highest interest rate, right? So if we could get that paid off, then move to the next card that has a lower interest rate and just tackle them one by one. Some people will say, hey, let's roll it all onto one credit card. Make sure, though, that you're not trading, one card that has a lower interest rate and then rolling it over onto one that has a higher one. And then also what I tell people is take into account the psychology behind it, because it can feel very empowering when you're paying one card off and then tackling the next. Sometimes if it is all together, it just seems like such a large amount that we lose a little bit of momentum in trying to tackle it.
And what about trying to consolidate your debt? Are there pitfalls in there to avoid as well?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is kind of how I mentioned about if you're not really looking at the interest rate on the new card and what that is compared to what you had an interest rate on other cards. And then two, sometimes people don't take time to realize, well, there's a promotional period and then a higher interest rate is going to get attached. Or maybe they don't realize what happens if they miss a payment, how much that will explode. So just taking time to really understand the terms and conditions of each card will make a big difference in the end.
And if you're really struggling to not accrue new and more debt all the time, sometimes maybe just lock the cards up and take them out as you're spending.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to like if we have a wound, right? We don't want to keep picking at it or peeling off the Band-Aid till it's healed. And it is hard because everything right now is attached to our phones. We have our credit cards. It's so easy. But the best thing you could do, and really the starting point, is to stop clicking, lock up your cards and do what you can. Try and pay cash where you can so you don't have that principal exploding on your accounts. That's really the only way you're going to be able to start to tackle all of this.
And this is a big one. Never take money out of your home to pay off credit card debt. It might be tempting sometimes.
I think so, especially when people feel like they're in a dire situation, but look to increasing your income, look to other ways to pay off your debt before you tap into your home equity. Because the thing is, with a credit card, if you don't pay it off, they're going to have to go through a huge messy process to try and collect from you. Whereas if you default on your mortgage, you could lose your home, and nobody should be, losing the roof over their head. So just be very careful. You really never want to be pulling equity out of your home to pay off other debts.
Are there certain strategies that you recommend for folks if they want to make a plan and stick with it, kind of how to begin that process?
I do. And so in my book, The Family Nest Egg, I kind of take people through that journey. But Start tonight before you do anything else. Start with your goals, like what's most important to you, what you really want, what are you working towards, and then set up a budget to get there. Because so oftentimes we're swiping our cards, we're clicking on things that have nothing to do with what we ultimately want most. And so by being clear on what we want in life, what our financial goals are, and aligning our budget to get that, you're going to find it so much easier not to get distracted and bogged down with purchases that we really don't need.
Yeah, so many temptations out there. Thank you so much, Laura. Great advice.
Of course, great to see you.
Thanks so much. We'll have more information on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.